Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Thrive Podcast. And if you're watching with the video, welcome. Today I have Dr. Nima Rahmany on, and I'm so excited to have him here and that he's given us this time because he's absolutely a genius. He's a chiropractic doctor and is also a mental optimization coach. And he works with professionals and individuals who are sick, stressed out, and stuck, who want to transform and have their best year ever. Well, who the heck doesn't, right?
Absolutely. Well, one of the cool things, the benefits of living with paralyzing anxiety and depression, which I did, was now I know exactly where it comes from and what you need to do to transform it to get yourself powerfully aligned and have your best year ever. So I basically get so much fulfillment in transforming that. I think your dog is gonna wake up my dog in just a second here.
Oh my goodness. Look at this, we're winging it.
What's your dog's name?
Miley.
Miley, meet Lucy.
Yeah, Miley's a lab that's a very kind of a guard dog.
Yeah, I could see. Is that the mailman outside?
Yeah. Yeah, so the dog's barking, just never mind. This is real life, right?
Totally, yeah. Authentic. Let's make it real life.
So I would really, I have lots of stuff I want to ask you, but to begin with, I just want to ask you about your training, your education, whatever it is. Like, what is it that you do, and how has what you started off doing led you to what you're doing today?
Good question. Thanks, Leanne. It's great to be here. My training started off as a teenager struggling with depression and feeling this low self-esteem because I'm Persian and I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So I was very present to the differences. And it was growing up at a time where Iran in the 80s was, any image that you saw on television of Iran in the 80s was negative. And so I had this shame about who I was. So it started, my journey of what I do right now started with the feeling of shame of my authentic self. And so wanting to complete that, wanting to get some sort of an understanding or a resolution of that feeling of low self-esteem because of who I was. I mean, I changed my name from Nima to Nick when I was like 12, 13 years old, just so that I could so maybe people wouldn't notice that I was different. So I had such paralyzing depression and low self-esteem that my training of what I'm doing right now started then, because we teach what we most want to learn, right? I mean, isn't that what you're doing? Isn't that what you're doing, Leanne?
You bet.
What your mess is, at the core of it, when you want to live a fulfilling life, what I've discovered is your mess. The thing that you had the greatest problem with is your message. So the thing I had the greatest problem with is self-esteem, was anxiety, was depression. And I went on this journey of personal growth, starting as my teenage years. And I started with what most people start off with Tony Robbins, Personal Power, Unlimited, the tapes. And how can I change my mindset so that I don't absolutely fucking hate myself?
Yeah.
Was the question that I was looking to answer. And also had a cool experience when I was 13 years old and getting paralyzing headaches as well. And I got adjusted by a chiropractor and had an amazing transformation in those symptoms. So I was like, wow, I'm really inspired to learn this tool of using my hands to be able to create transformation. So I was inspired by the concept of transformation, whether it be with my hands or whether it be through learning something or teaching something. This concept of transition or transformation became very, very interesting to me. So I went ahead and just went all in with this whole concept of learning how to become a chiropractor. And I graduated at the age of 25.
Wow.
And when I was 25 years old, boom, I was met with this incredible anxiety of starting a new chiropractic practice. I had $150,000 in debt. I had zero confidence in my skills. So I went back all into what I knew, which was more personal development. And I studied the work of Dr. John Demartini and became a disciple. I mean, when I saw him speak live for the first time in my first year of chiropractic school in 1997, I was mesmerized and blown away that how he could use his words, and from a place of being where he is on stage, giving a message that transformed my thinking and saw awoke within me a greater possibility for myself. I was like, I want to do that. So fast forward 16 years, and I'm in New Zealand. This was 2-3 years ago. I'm in New Zealand, and in Auckland, New Zealand, at the New Zealand Chiropractic College, and I'm about to address the students, and it hit me, holy shit, I'm actually doing what I always dreamed of doing. So the journey from being a depressed teenager to being an anxious chiropreneur to doing a bunch of personal development and coming up with my own methodology, which is a refinement of Dr. John Demartini's work and Byron Katie's work and Andrew Bernstein's work and Werner Erhard's work, and putting it all together and finding my own kind of voice from all of the mentors. I've now come up with a method that takes trauma, that takes past stories, transforms it, and gets you powerfully aligned with who you are. So when you're in a state of being stuck, sick, stressed, and depressed, you now have an opportunity to take that mess, turn it into your message, and then serve other people with it. So now I've created a 3-month coaching program after I sold my practice last year and went through more challenges and refined my method. And so now I have a program where I teach people who have anxiety, panic attacks, depression in the period of transition, especially when you're going from career change, when you're going through a relationship change, when you're going through a move, when you're going into any expansion that involves moving into a void and moving in through a darkness. I now specialize in helping those people break through the anxiety and depression of transition into creating their best year ever.
That's really, really awesome. And so much of that is part of the work that I do as well, helping people when they're just stressed and sick and stuck, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in that place, it can be really, really hard to come out of that. And sometimes you just need, sometimes it's just the way, you know, a certain person will say something to you and you just have that shift, like you said, or just like being mesmerized. And I know a little bit about John Demartini. I've done a little bit of like reading with him and watching videos, and done some of his webinars and things like that. So, and I've worked with other mentors that was their kind of influence as well. Yeah. So I get the whole values-based thing and all that. So I think that's really interesting. So what are the specific types of people that you prefer or love to work with? Is your work for everyone and anyone, or is there a certain person?
That's the beauty of this. We're talking about clinical counselors, psychotherapists, psychiatrists. You know, the work that I do right now, what I uncovered in being a chiropractor for the past 18 years is that when people come in, even with physical disorders, chronic pain, whether it's a chronic emotional pain like depression or grief, or whether it's a chronic physical pain, there is a mindset component. There is a story and a trigger and a drifting into a pit that's involved in most most health problems that are not addressed through conventional medicine, are not addressed through medication, are not addressed through even psychotherapy and counseling, going to a counselor week after week and repeating your victim story. Those are the people that I do not want to work with, because the work that I do involves facing your demons, facing the parts of you that you don't like, and looking your shit directly in the eye and getting you to love and integrate your wholeness. The light and the shadow, the integration of our saint and our sinner, of our, what I love to call dark passenger. And we all have it. And most of the people who are listening, I'll tell you right now, the people who have the hormonal issues, the people who have the digestive issues, the people who have relationship issues, the people who are riddled with guilt, people who have anxiety, there is a darkness that they're not wanting to face. There is a truth that they're withholding. There is a lie that they're perpetuating. And the difference between what I do and what most times when you go to counselors, I'm not a counselor. I'm not here to sit there and listen to your problems week after week. I'm here to actually get you a result. Whereas what I find is going to piss a lot of people off, especially if you're a counselor or a shrink or a psychiatrist, is that your business model is not enhanced by you getting a resolution. So
Yeah, it's like I learned in counseling school, you work yourself out of a job is really what the idea is. You want to.
Exactly. And I know many people, many friends of mine that I know are counselors, and this is not a painting all of them with the same brush, but how many people have I talked to who are dealing with their mother issues or their daddy issues for 20 years because their counselor kept repeating the belief, oh, it's not your fault. Your childhood was like this. You have this disorder. You have that label. You
Oh
have
my
no
goodness.
hope. And you've been labeled with something which has been like this identity that's been slapped over your forehead. And I know what I'm saying is going to piss off 50% of the people who are listening or viewing. And I get that. I've now reached a stage of certainty with the work that I know to answer the question, who do you not work with? I don't work with people. I have a conversation with you to see, because the results happen 100% of the time. The result of transformation of a stuck state of stress, depression, anxiety within a few months to getting freedom, power, self-expression, powerfully aligned and on purpose, living your vision. But the gap between that place and that place takes a certain kind of human being, takes a certain kind of individual who's ready to own up to their part of the dance.
Okay.
In other words, the person who wants to say, yeah, my mom and dad, like I went over to dinner last night with one of these people and I just had a visceral reaction. I just realized this is not the type of person that I work with, who wants to put the blame and place blame on mom, dad, the person who abused them from their past, who loves to use labels like abuse, who loves to perpetuate their victimhood, because those people who tend to migrate towards support groups will be stuck in that disempowering place for the rest of their lives. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't come to me and say, I want results with my anxiety and depression. I want to overcome it. Yet at the same time, perpetuate the belief that it's a chemical imbalance, that I have it's a disease or a disorder that's genetic, that I have a chemical imbalance that was caused by my parents. You're basically giving away your power.
Totally.
I work with people who are actually interested in taking the power back. So you can't claim that you want results, yet at the same time, you've given away your power to somebody else in creating the situation that you're in currently. It doesn't work. The two are mutually exclusive, because you've just basically stated that no matter what you do in the future, it's not going to work because somebody else has power over your life.
Oh, and I love that, because man, like so much of what you're saying just hits home, because as a, my education is in counseling psychology, but I also knew when I was going to school that I was going to be practicing a lot different than the counseling I experienced in my 20-year journey of going through counseling.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I found was with support groups is that they were disempowering. I attended a couple, and you leave feeling worse because you've taken on all the negative vibes. It's all about your sickness. It's focused on your diagnoses.
Misery loves company.
Yeah. And you leave feeling worse than when you came in. And so for that's something that, when I've done groups, it's been more about empowerment and inspiring. And
100%.
Yeah.
And you just nailed it right there, Leanne. It's the danger of support group. Here's what happens when you first encounter a trauma and you feel at that low. You are so low that we need support in order to bring us back into balance. We need support in order to bring that up, especially when you're in a low, and you get it. You see it happen. If something were to happen in my family, all of a sudden I have a loss of a loved one. Guess what happens? All the family and friends, they show up, and I feel that love and support. We need that in order to carry on. Otherwise, we can't survive.
Yeah.
The problem happens when we become so addicted to the support that we lose sight of the vision.
Right.
We lose sight of why we're here. So we then go back week after week looking for the support, and the support becomes the drug. It becomes the addiction. And you go and you tell your story, and then everyone goes, oh, poor you, it's not your fault. You get that momentary high, which feels good because that's the dopamine that you're getting. But then when you leave, you feel worse because you're still empty. And now you are without that support because you don't have a leg to stand on within yourself. And if you truly want results, you will only see that support as a temporary fix, so that you can then find your own legs to stand on, because at the very hallmark of your journey is then being there for others and being a stand for other people and being there to create a meaningful life in the service of other people, using that story of empowerment, not the story of victimhood. And so victimhood, people who are addicted to support, will only are a very limited energetic level that doesn't lend to healing.
Right. And what I heard
doesn't lend to healing.
Yeah, exactly. And what I heard you say before too, I wanted to go back to, is about the label thing. One of the things that I do with my clients is, in the assessment period, it's always like, has there been any diagnoses or whatever? That's part of like the assessment. And so what I have people do is, can we just put those labels like on the shelf?
It's almost impossible for a lot of people.
Yeah. Like, let's just put that aside, because that's not actually what we're dealing with here.
And that's one of the criteria of me working with somebody, is that I don't care what you've been diagnosed or labeled with, because the problem with the label, it's kind of a double-edged sword. When somebody's struggling with a lot of things and they're just wondering why crap isn't working well in their lives, when they go to a doctor and all of a sudden a test results come and you go, oh, you have so-and-so. Or the worst is if they go, you have chronic depression, you have a chemical imbalance. First of all, I challenge that, because where was the test? Show me the test for the chemical imbalance. It doesn't exist.
No.
I want you to understand right now, if you're listening, paying attention, the chemical imbalance theory is a complete myth. It is not true. And the reason why that it's been promoted is because if I can convince you have a chemical imbalance, then I can convince you to be hooked on a drug for the rest of your life, because now your choices don't matter. But if you have a tiger chasing after you, which is stress, then there is a disruption to the chemistry. But here's the thing. My perceptions on that tiger, on that stress, whether it's on the way versus in the way, will determine my internal chemistry. In other words, my choices and how I perceive things will completely determine how my body will respond. And those choices are within our control. But the problem is, you have never been taught. You've never been guided through this. You might have read it in a book somewhere. You might have read Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief that shows you that your beliefs actually can change the chemistry of your body. You might have read that. But if you've never had a guide show you the tools and the questions to ask to change your perceptions, you're likely going to a counselor, a therapist, or a psychiatrist that is promoting this label idea that basically goes, oh, well, and it's an affirmation. Every time you take the pill, every time you hear the label, my choices aren't going to matter. This is my fate for the rest of my life. Those are the people who get no results, because their beliefs have been implanted, kind of like a learned helplessness, that doesn't matter what I do. This is my fate for the rest of my life. Yeah. I work with people. The only people that I work with are the ones that get results, who have this fundamental belief and understanding that their thoughts, their perceptions, their view on their stories, especially about mom and dad, especially about abuser, mother, father, teacher, preacher, abuser, the victim story is what's holding you back. And the people that I work with are ready and have actually already established that okay, I've done the support group, I've done the pills, I'm still stuck. And I'm tired of this diagnosis, this revolving door that actually benefits financially from you staying stuck with the label. Mm-hmm. Please understand, who benefits? Who benefits by keeping you stuck on the label, the diagnosis, the pill, and the belief that your choices don't matter? The system. So the work that I do is for people ready to break free from this system and go to the higher level. The lowest level is victimhood support group level. And those are stuck. Those are the people who are in the never ending revolving kind of door of disability, insurance, medical system, disempowerment, label. And that's where our healthcare system is, and our financial system is going like this because of that. So I stopped working with those people. I stopped taking those types of I do see people on disability. However, it's the people who understand that you do realize that if you lose your disability, if you get healthy, you might lose your disability. There are people who are like, okay, my health is more important than the paycheck, the paycheck. The people who are ready to overcome that. That's why it's not for everyone, Leanne.
Yeah.
That's why a healing isn't for everyone. Everyone thinks that they want to be healthy, but it's not, because health is work. It's based on choices. It's not only based on your genes and luck. It's based on it's work. It's work for me to get up at 6 a.m. and do my workout. It's work for me to choose the apple over the donut. It's work for me to sit and do the meditation and take all of the resentments that I've gone through over the past couple of years and decide and choose the story that will be most empowering rather than the story that will drive me and drift me into the pit. It's work, and it's not going to be done without a proper guide that sees the highest version of you, rather than a guide who's going to keep you stuck in the system week after week, repeating your own bullshit story of suffering.
Yeah.
So it's confronting. I get it. And I piss people off. And some of you who are listening will get very triggered by what I'm saying. And I get that, but I've been in the game for about 16 years. And now I know who's going to get healthy, who's not. And I'm ready to work with the people I love working the people who are like, okay, I get it. My bullshit story is keeping me stuck. I'm ready to stop bullshitting myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you there through my 6-7 year journey with this same thing. It's refining to the place where I know the clients that are going to get well and have really rapid results, because my goal is, basically within a 30-day period of working with me, that your issues you came in with will be like pretty much non-existent. You're on your way, right? Like within the first session,
but not without work.
Of course. Yeah. And you see, that's the thing, is that some people, they think just going to see somebody, a coach, a counselor, a healer, is the work. The work is what happens in between. I always say it's what you go and do afterwards that's the work.
I always tell people I'm a leader, not a savior.
Yes.
Nobody is here to save you.
Nope.
Wake up, and it's not in that doctor. There is no doctor that's going to cure you. I'll tell you right now.
Nope.
If you think that all of these symptoms that you're going through, all of these tests, I want to find out what's wrong and get a diagnosis. The diagnosis will not effing help you.
No.
Because the diagnosis is a direct result of the exhaustion of a system, of an ecosystem that has been moving downhill and a downward spiral because of what they've been eating, how they've been moving, and how you've been thinking. And by thinking, I'm talking about the stories, the representations, the interpretations of what's happening in your life. For example, I had a dinner with this gal that I was talking about yesterday, and she was pissed off in her relationship. She said, he hasn't texted me in 2 hours. He's so he knows that you don't do that to somebody. Why is he making me feel that way? And I'm like, okay, so here's the question that I have. He's not texting you. What meaning are you making out of it? Well, that he doesn't love me. Okay, so what's the interpretation? And we uncovered that it was, I'm not loved. So she's taking an event, which is the guy hasn't texted for 3 hours. They just met last week, and they're in this extremely passionate, woo, which is a big sign that you're out of your power when you're
big high.
completely infatuated with somebody and making it seem that you are not fully complete if they don't give you acknowledgement. So she's basically now using somebody else on the outside to fill what's missing inside, which is what we do in relationships all the time. And now she's made it mean she's not loved. And I said, okay, so where did you experience that before? And then she starts bursting into tears because I've always felt my mom and dad didn't love me. So in other words, the story, mom and dad didn't love me, I guarantee you is a lie. I had a lie I've been living by for 40 years, which is my parents don't support me. My parents don't believe in me. And that was the lie that was running my life, and it drove my health into a complete pit. my health, my whole life, my relationships, because of that belief, because I was behaving in ways that was compensating for that. So to peel back these stories and uncover where they come from is far more rewarding and result producing than repeating them week after week, pretending that you're actually healing, when in reality, you're just getting another hit of dopamine, which is support week after week, whether you go to church to get it, whether you go to your counselor to get it. So this is healing, and transformation is about stepping into the void, which is your fear, facing what you never wanted to face before, and telling the effing truth, and then restoring the integrity. And that's where your power comes back. And then from that space, unlimited possibilities of health and fulfillment start to emerge.
I love all of that, because it's so in alignment with where, where I feel so much is kind of goes wrong for people that aren't healing. They're people that, externally from the outside, they can list all the things they're doing.
Yeah.
Yet they're still there. So that's what I'd love to talk about. Those people that are, they've done the naturopath, they've done the acupuncture, they've done the counseling, they've got their prescription, taken supplements, they've tried the detoxes, the diets, the food plans, right? But yet they're still stuck. So what would you have to say for someone?
You'll be surprised. I'm not knocking the supplements and the diet and everything. I drink green smoothies. Yeah. I do my fish oils. I exercise. But nothing is more powerful than to stop bullshitting yourself. If you find yourself consistently trying one thing after another, this is a classic case. I mean, you can see it in my group, The Art of Powerful Alignment. I just interviewed Tara. She's with paralyzing anxiety to the point where she was vomiting every week. And what does she do? I tried everything. I tried acupuncture. I tried hypnotherapy. I did the diet. I did the supplements. I did talk therapy. But you know what we did? Within 8 weeks, we took a 30-year condition and we completely made it vanish, because it turned out she was bullshitting herself, number one, about stories about dad, mom, about her guilt she was holding on to. And if you find yourself not healing, then chances are, I'll give it to you straight right now, if it's not cancer and you've ruled all of those organic diseases out that are, even cancer, by the way, is coming from an emotional story. You got to look at. Chances are that you're running a pattern of guilt, of shame, of abandonment, of resentment, of regret. And those are creating a state of being which is pushing your body into stress hormones, which is perpetuating your illness. And without clearing that story, you can do all the green smoothies and hypnotherapy you want, but without uncovering the bullshit, the lie, the delusion, you're now running an unconscious stress response. It's like you're pushing a boulder up a hill. You have these rocks in your backpack and wondering why you have adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is a story that you're not wanting to let go of. It's a rock in your backpack that you're fighting based on a belief. You're running yourself ragged. You're doing 20 different things at once, trying to prove to yourself, well, let's look at why. And then if you keep uncovering why is it that you're doing that, then you'll see, well, I have to be successful because otherwise, boom, feelings of guilt. I'm a failure. So without understanding I'm a failure, I'm a feelings of guilt, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, without completing that, you're endlessly seeking outside treatments when the answer is within you to complete that story. And I get a high off basically having my client look me in the eye through a Skype session and go, holy shit, I am so full of shit. And the awareness, I had one client, it was amazing. She had hormonal issues. She wasn't able to have her period for 10 years. She tried everything, hormonal replacement, nutrition, all of the, exercise. It wouldn't work. And guess what happened? I said, when did this begin? 10 years ago. Well, what was going on 10 years ago? Well, she got married 10 years ago to the right guy, to the guy who is the type you marry. So she had a safety thing because of her story of her past, passionate, tumultuous hurricane of a relationship that was sexually hot and bothered, but it was a complete shit show. We all know what that's like, right? There's the type of girl or the type of guy that you marry and the type of guy or girl that you just have sex with, right? And so she was having that story. She hadn't completed it. And that disconnection between who she wanted to marry and who she really wanted to be with, it caused her to live with this inauthenticity. And that inauthenticity of who she was pretending to be for him, because she thought that this is the type of person that she would want, the straight-laced, the vanilla, whereas deep down inside, she had this little dark passenger demon that wanted to be a complete, floozy that she was repressing, which went into her hormonal level, which went into her, the way that her lady balls were working. And she tried all of these things, doctor's appointments, and what we did in our session, I'll never forget it. I basically, this was a power thing. And what is it that you feel that is causing you to feel? She goes, I feel powerless because I'm trying everything. I said, okay, so where in your life are you experiencing this powerlessness? And where do you feel that you have power? And she goes, oh my God, I have it in my relationship because I'm the one directing things in the bedroom, where I just want to be the one taking control of. I just want to let go and just be the submissive. So it was a dominant submissive power dynamic for her in her case. I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. For her in her case, that she was completely repressing. And the second that she admitted that that's what it was, and she went and had an honest conversation with what she truly wanted, guess what happened that month?
I'm guessing her symptoms disappeared.
She got her cycle. She messages me and she goes, holy shit, Nima, you're not going to believe this. I got my period for the first time in 10 years. And it was like, oh, and I just kind of sat down and I was like, holy crap. We talk about, it's my hormones. It's all my hormones. I'm here to tell you, your hormones cause you to feel certain things, but the way that you feel based on the stories that you're making out about the events happening in your life and what's occurring will change your freaking hormones.
Right. Because and hormones are so sensitive too, right? To everything.
To how you are viewing yourself in the world and how you are perceiving yourself to be. So that's why this realization, this culmination, 15, 16-year journey into chiropractic, 40, 35, 37-year journey into understanding depression and anxiety just in my own life, I've now got it. I've created this methodology. It's called Powerfully Aligned. Kind of like a little play on words of my journey as a chiropractor. When you are powerfully aligned with your mission, vision, and purpose, and you are powerfully aligned with the truth of what is, and you stop hiding, you stop pretending, and you live congruently with that, and understanding that sometimes people around you right now, there's fears coming up with some people who are listening because they're thinking, what are my parents going to think? What's my spouse going to think? What are my kids going to think? I had one client who lived with paralyzing anxiety for 30 years because she didn't want to tell the truth that the marriage that she was living in was all arranged and it wasn't truly in alignment with who she was being. So 1 year after her marriage, boom, she gets paralyzing anxiety, just like my last client who within the time frame of her marriage, boom, starts to get health problems. So when I talk to people, I don't give a shit about your symptoms and your diagnosis beyond what was going on in your life when they began, because the stories that you're telling about yourself during those times will determine everything in the outcome. And many people would rather go from doctor to doctor, take pill after pill and vitamin and herb and supplement and hypnotherapy rather than tell the effing truth.
And I totally agree with that. And I think that this is what's so interesting to me is because obviously in my line of work, I see people that are not healing. They've been given these labels and it just continues no matter what.
I don't work.
It's kind of sad. And
so frustrating as a practitioner, isn't it?
It totally is. And it's sad because it's like maybe they are doing all they know how to do and they're just being led down this kind of path that's not really going to get them anywhere.
Can I tell you what my observation is that they truly know the truth. They don't want to face it. In other words, what I've observed, and this is why I'm very choosy with who I work with. I don't work with everybody, Leanne. And I basically have found and discovered that people would rather be right than to be healthy. And people would rather be sick than to tell the truth.
Right. Because it's harder. Sometimes people are keeping a tight lid on some pretty painful stuff or stuff they don't want to look at. So having that compassion.
Right.
What I hear you saying, and this is true for me as well, is that, you're almost have very little chance of recovery or healing if you're not at least willing.
Zero chance. Everything you're doing is a waste of money and is a dance, is a ritual. Whether you're doing this energy work or the healing. I mean, I don't want to knock these people, but if you're still holding, these practitioners are all great, but the highest level practitioner, because the truth sets you free, but first it will scare the shit out of you and maybe piss you off. And it's 100% true. And so being powerfully aligned, being healthy is not for everyone. It's for people who are ready to find who they truly are and state what is. And that scares the crap out of people. I know one of my clients who's been reaching out is just in a really, really difficult place right now. And she's like, I'm afraid to talk to you because she knows she's lying sack of whatever. And I confront that. I'm an asshole. I'm a complete asshole with this is the beauty of not being a counselor or a psychiatrist because I don't have to live by the professional standards of, okay, let's do it this way and it's got to be done according. No, I'm like a friend. I'm like that friend that will call you out on your bullshit because the feedback that I give has the highest version of you in mind, not this perpetuating of victimhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not what I do. The people who health is reserved for the people who are ready to give up a few things. They're ready to give up being right. And they're ready to actually give up their lies.
Yeah, totally.
And that you could do all the supplements, do all the exercises. And if you're still trying to be right and living with a lie and you're not willing to face the bullshit stories that you have about your past, then I'm afraid that your results will be limited and be okay. And as long as you're okay living in the system, living with the label. And so that's why I started becoming choosy and I stopped where it was out of frustration with working with these clients who claim that they want help. Then I go, okay, so what's going on in your life? Where are the lies that you're telling you? No, but I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go and restore integrity with my family. I've forgiven them and I've avoided them. I'm like, well, look at your life and look at the anxiety and the depression. It has to do with any incomplete that you're having with the primitive relationships in your life is perpetuating your illness. And what I do, the work that I do is change perceptions and get you to repair what's been broken so that the foundation of your life, which is relationships, by the way, it's how relationships that occurred to you. It's your victim story, the lack of integrity. If you are avoiding certain places, if you fear going to certain places or fear running into certain people across the street, you've completely lost your power.
Right.
And that is contributing to your state of being, which is contributing to your illness. So what I do is completely unconventional. It involves telling the truth, changing perceptions, and then restoring what's been broken. And it's not easy at all. There's fear and there's work involved and there's an investment involved. But results are guaranteed for people who do the work.
And I love that and I love to say the same thing. I'm more like the unconventional. I don't even actually call myself a counselor anymore because I'm working to move myself out of that realm as I'm moving into leading with more nutritional stuff.
Yep.
It's going to be mind, body, emotion, like everything, because I feel like where all of this has gone wrong is that even the best nutritionists aren't dealing with all of this, the mind, body, spirit connection and this past stuff. You could have the cleanest diet in the world and be exercising and still not be able to release weight if you're someone if you're still holding on to this story of, I'm so traumatized, I'm a victim, I'm a victim of abuse, I'm a survivor of blank. Well, guess what? If you have
the label that you're constantly using in your language to describe yourself as a survivor of something, well, then you'll always be a victim of something. And that thing will have power over you, and you will find yourself getting triggered constantly everywhere you go and wondering why your life's not working.
It's like that. I believe it was maybe started by Wayne Dyer. I'm not sure, but he always said, be very careful what you say after I am, right? Like watch what you're identifying with.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in people who are ready to go from I am stressed, I'm a victim, to I am powerfully aligned, living on purpose, and I am a gift to this world. And so that's the transition, and it takes work to get there.
Yeah. And I'm a firm advocate of that. You gotta commit, and you gotta invest your time, your energy, money. There is things that you have to invest.
And don't do it alone.
Yeah.
For the love of God. Everyone's like, yeah, well, but I read books. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, there's information and then there's transformation. Transformation happens when you have a guide on the side, putting your feet to the fire, holding you to certain commitments that are scary and uncomfortable. You can't do that alone.
Yeah. And you know what I see, and this is a trap I fell into, was the personal development addiction, where I was just constantly reading, thinking I was doing something. But what I see is I tend to attract those kind of clients they like to read and all that, but it's the lack of implementation and integration into your life. You can be consuming all you want, but if you're not actually doing anything with that.
Accountability, my dear, accountability and skin in the game. And so that's basically how we do it.
That's so awesome. There's so many truth bombs and little nuggets of wisdom in this conversation. I absolutely love it. So what I would like to just ask you before we close up is, where could someone begin if they are someone that's experiencing chronic health issues like we were discussing, depression, anxiety, adrenal fatigue, weight loss, hormonal stuff? Those tend to be the issues that I work with.
Well, the first thing that you do, where do they begin? Where do you begin?
Yeah, like if they can identify with what we've been talking about, and they're kind of like, oh man, yes, I'm ready to really look at this.
So what you want to do, the first thing, and this is going to be tough, you want to write down, what's the biggest lie that you're living with?
Wow, powerful.
And that's going to scare the shit out of you. It's like, oh, what's the biggest lie in your relationship? What's the biggest lie in your workplace? What are you lying and pretending?
Right.
And right away, this is how I work. Is like when I work with someone, we get results within your first 2 weeks. You will have massive results because I'm going to confront the biggest bullshit story of your entire life, expose it to be false, and get you into action. So this is for people who actually want transformation, not this little, oh, okay, how can I? No, it's for people ready. What are you lying about?
Even to yourself or outwardly, right?
Even to yourself. You pretend that you're okay. Do you lie? Do you lie that you, one of the lies from one of my clients was that she was, really fulfilled in her marriage, and there was nothing that she could do about it. And it's just something that she should be living with. Or the biggest lie is that I need other people's support in order to feel good about myself. Like, we lie to ourselves. Like, what is it that you're lying about? Most people aren't even aware of what they're lying about.
Yeah, because it's a chronic story, right?
So yeah, that's when you kind of reach out and have a kind of a breakthrough session, a strategy session I would do, and I would uncover what it is, and we'd get into action and how to clear it. And so
that's awesome. That's really awesome. So then that leads me to asking you, where can we direct listeners? Where can they find all the information about you and your work?
The best thing to do is just go on Facebook and join the group, The Art of Powerful Alignment. You join the group and introduce yourself, ask questions. I do videos almost daily that gives you tidbits in how to get yourself connected to your higher self and clear stress in relationships and health issues. Today I'm doing one on guilt. I do a video on guilt. You can look at the past history of all the videos and interviews that I do with people. I'm talking about guilt and how it has a damaging effect on your health and your self-esteem and how to clear it. The Art of Powerful Alignment. But if you actually want to see and you're ready, you're like, I'm sick of this crap and I'm ready to take the next step, I would start a kind of a breakthrough strategy session. join the Facebook group, watch the training, the live webinar training that I do. That there's a webinar that I teach on the 5 critical shifts you need to transform transitional anxiety and depression into powerfully aligned and living on purpose. Once you've seen that and you really feel ready to make that step into living your powerfully aligned, then you'd reach out to me. bepowerfullyaligned.com/apply. You'd fill out a form, set up a time, and it would probably be the best 45 minutes to an hour you've ever spent, where we kind of uncover a strategy of getting you living from stressed, depressed, anxious, and unhealthy to making a difference in the world and being a stand for your family and having a fulfilling relationship and starting to own your power enough so that you can start making more money and be worthy of the life that you actually deserve.
Right.
So,
that's so awesome.
bepowerfullyaligned.com.
Awesome. And I will put that link in the show notes for your website link there.
Yeah.
And definitely recommend your group. It's a great place for people to come and be sort of immersed in these teachings and these other ways of thinking, because you're not going to find this just anywhere. It's really difficult to find.
It's different. It's different than your counselor. It's actually, I have given up a lot in order to teach this full time. I retired from chiropractic because this is where healing is at. And I only have now dedicated myself to an exclusive group of clientele who are ready to abandon their story and change their story into being powerfully aligned and living on purpose.
Well, this is amazing. And I really appreciate the work that you do. Amazing. I love hearing people doing this kind of work. It just gets me so inspired.
And congrats for your transition and transformation. You've come a long way in the past 2 years since I first, met you, and you're doing it, and keep going, my dear. I'm here to support you in any way I can.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we were able to make this happen, and I'm sure we'll do some other additions. That would be awesome. Okay. Thanks so much, Nima.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.